Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar where we will be discussing how Fortra's Automate RPA platform can provide a boost to your IT department. My name is Dan Smith. I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer here at Fortra, specializing in automation. Just a quick note regarding how to leave questions and comments depending on which interface you're using. Putting a question in the chat is a little different. If you're in the GoToWebinar browser interface, you'll see a section at the bottom that will say enter a question for the staff. Simply type in your question or comment and hit send. If you're using the Instant Join app, you'll first navigate to the question mark with a circle around it as shown. Then type in your question and hit the blue send button at the bottom. The topics for today include challenges facing IT departments, common use cases for RPA and IT, why automate for IT departments, a live Automate demo, and we probably won't have time to answer your questions live, but we will respond to all questions that are posted after the webinar concludes. Okay, our first topic is challenges facing IT departments. Challenges and pressures on the IT department continue to grow. With an increasing number of requests and day-to-day tasks, there's less time to invest in driving innovation and strengthening the value of the business. Many departments are also challenged with having fewer resources to handle these growing business and IT requests. Likely, IT hasn't been considered as part of the organization's larger RPA initiative, or the department has gaps in existing processes that are still being done manually that could be entirely automated with the help of our solution. Cybersecurity initiatives are likely the #1 priority for your IT team. We understand that as Fortra has a large cybersecurity portfolio alongside automation, but automation can play an important and beneficial role as well. By leveraging RPA for the most manual and tedious tasks pressed onto your IT team members, they can gain back efficiencies in processes and productivity and are enabled to focus on more strategic and high-value initiatives. Automate provides your IT employees digital coworkers to take on the manual and tedious tasks, relieving IT teams from mundane operations. Automate will allow your department to develop long-lasting automation that is consistent and reusable, providing robotic process automation that also works for IT. Now let's take a look at some common RPA use cases for IT. Keeping in mind this is just a sampling of how our customers are leveraging RPA in their IT departments. For example, IT policy and training. That might include policy distribution and routing, tracking of IT training completion and scores. Reporting may include creation of standard management reports, distribution of selected reports to various user groups, variance calculations, and reporting versus planned data. Event management might include event monitoring and reporting, first-level event resolution. Application testing might include initial application performance testing, collection of user feedback ratings, reporting of test results in various formats. Security monitoring may include technical threat and vulnerability management, incident registration and reporting, first-level incident resolution. Help and service desk management includes ticket creation and routing, request processing, logging, and updating, automated delivery of responses to frequently asked questions, automated pre-approved task execution, automated escalation processing and routing, and after-hours notification and alert processing. File management, including FTP, SFTP, and MFT, would include batch processing and ad hoc file transfers, synchronizing, deleting, and emptying of folders, securing and encrypting data at rest and in motion, audit reporting, and centralized management of data flows. Database processing may include automated data collection, replication, cleanup, and migration. Server application monitoring and remediation might include daily monitoring of server performance and capacity, automated email notifications of server issues, reporting of server performance and available drive space, cloud environment monitoring and usage, and user management and provisioning may include automating user profiles and setup, processing new and high-level user requests, managing password reset processes, and termination processing. As a quick example, the IT team at World Precision Instruments is currently processing over 100 accounting, production, and manufacturing resource planning reports through Automate, freeing the IT staff from waiting around during the evening to run those close of business and end of month reports. I also want to highlight the quote we received from their IT support specialists. "I'm not a programmer, but with Automate, I don't need to be. I taught myself to use the program, and there is almost no learning curve." So why Automate for IT departments? Automate was built with IT in mind. Automate provides organizations an easy-to-use automation solution built for IT. IT teams can build automation quickly for critical tasks, so your team can have better productivity and efficiency and enable faster execution of automation projects. With enterprise features that are top of mind for IT leaders, Automate acts like full-time employees, but on a digital scale, working 24 hours a day. Here are the key features of Automate. It allows users to build automation quickly, leveraging reusable modules, easily test and troubleshoot, and have everything centralized, avoiding compiled code. Reducing the technical expertise required to build great and durable automation is where Automate excels. Taking a look at the breadth of features, you'll see four main categories here. Automate has a built-in recorder that assists with building out UI automation, whether that's browser-based or a desktop application. Native actions are well over 700 actions that can be leveraged to integrate with various systems. We also have built-in API integration for RESTful APIs or SOAP-based web services, as well as decoding the XML or JSON within the responses. And we also have artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. Regarding access to Automate know-how, Fortra provides well over 200 task modules that are free to download from Fortra's digital marketplace, including FTP, file manipulation, integration with Active Directory, Jira, ServiceNow, and Zendesk, just to name a few. We also have the Automate Academy, which provides do-it-yourself videos for training. We also have the automation community, where you can share knowledge with other peers, and it provides peer-to-peer support. We also have an in-house professional services team that can provide more official training through certification training and can also help you build out the automation. It's important to recognize that each enterprise IT automation journey is unique. Whether the automation is going to include backend automation, working with APIs, or front-end automation, working with various UIs, or running your processes in an attended or an unattended fashion after hours. All of these capabilities are built into the Automate license. Now let's take a quick look at the architecture components of Automate. It begins with the development tools, which we also refer to as the studio. That's where you design, build, and test your automation. The system has a centralized server that communicates with the studios as well as our Automate agents. You would place an agent on a system and the execution of the logic would take place on that particular system. Then we also have the mobile ops console where you can monitor and control what's happening inside of the Automate system without actually being inside of the development tools. These components can be combined in various ways. This is a sample package called Automate Plus that contains 2 studios and 5 agents to be deployed on various systems. It's easily scalable. Additional studios can be added a la carte, as well as the agent licenses, and you can also incorporate an HA or a DR instance by adding another server. Here's a snapshot of the core built-in actions available within Automate. There are well over 700 actions and sub-actions that can be leveraged to build out automation. A few notable ones include Active Directory, database, email, FTP, which includes SFTP and FTPS, browser integration, whether that's Chrome, Edge, or Firefox, HTTP for integrating with APIs, and there's also VB script. You can incorporate DLLs, Python scripts, executables, PowerShell scripts if you'd like. All the built-in actions should cover everything that you need to build out the automation, but we want to make sure that we provide flexibility when building out the automation. Automate contains multiple triggering mechanisms, including a regular schedule, folder watcher, and an inbox monitor, just to name a few. Essentially, once a task is built, you apply a trigger or multiple triggers in order to activate it and prepare it for production. Automate's Workflow Designer can be leveraged to design an automated business process. In this particular example, we have a workflow that is executing every day at 3 in the morning, leveraging a schedule trigger. It then reaches out to an FTP server and downloads a file via SFTP. It takes that file, which is a CSV file, manipulates the data, creating a new Excel spreadsheet. It then encrypts and uploads the resulting file to another FTP server, at which point it sends out a proactive notification letting an administrator know that the process has completed successfully, sending out an associated email. It also has exception handling built in. If a failure occurs anywhere in the process, it will then reach out to an API, in this case a ServiceNow API, to open up an incident. The system will automatically load balance. It is going to choose an agent to execute the logic based on the prod agents or the production agents grouping. The system monitors CPU load so it knows which one has the most bandwidth to be able to execute the process. You can then stay with that same agent throughout by choosing the previous agent's designation, or you can go right back into the pool of prod agents to have a different system execute the logic. So the workflow design is essentially flexible in regards to which system is going to execute at any given time. Next, we'll take a look at this workflow in action. Within the Workflow Designer, we can test the entire process end-to-end by clicking on the Run icon here. And then we will get an indicator box that appears in the lower right that's indicating that the process has begun. It is now downloading a file from the FTP server via SFTP, then is taking that resulting file, manipulating it, putting the data into the proper format, leveraging some filtering mechanisms here. I can interact with the system here, moving the windows accordingly so we can see the proper output. Now you'll see that the data has filtered, creating that new report. The next step, it will encrypt and upload the file to another FTP server. And once that completes, the system will then send out a notification to the administrator via email in this case that the process completed successfully. We could also proactively notify an administrator if there was any sort of a failure that occurred throughout the entire flow. We also have exception handling built in that would open up an incident in ServiceNow through its API if there was any sort of an exception that occurred. We can track the output in the lower window here and track any sort of variables that are being passed throughout the entire process. All of that can be monitored throughout the entire execution of the test. Now I'll run another test. This time we have deactivated the FTP server, so when we click on the run icon here, we'll now see that it's attempting the FTP download, which is going to fail. It will take the failure branch, which will create an incident in ServiceNow, making a call to the API. The system is aware of all the exception information, the particular action that caused the failure. All that information can then be incorporated into that ServiceNow ticket. Now let's take a look at the task that was incorporated in that workflow. You can open up that particular task inside of the Automate Task Builder. This is where you have access to all of those 700 plus actions that you can simply drag into your logic and complete the associated form. You can design and build your logic for the individual task in this component, and you can test it as well. So you'll see various actions here. Taking a look at the logic at the top, we're creating and initializing some variables. We can put in a collapsible region to make it easier to read. And then we are creating a new workbook from an existing template. So you see this is also self-documenting in a sense. We are then opening up an existing workbook and extracting the data to a data set. So we're grabbing all of that text regardless of how many rows there are. We are looping through that data set, adding specific rows to the new workbook, creating that new report. And then finally we have a wrap-up section where we're closing and saving those particular workbooks. Let's run a quick test inside of the task builder. I'll click on the run icon here. Now we'll see the task executing from the top down, creating the new workbook based on the template. It's now opening up the report. It's going to be the source of the new report. Now you see all the information being written. You'll see it looping through all the data in the background, then finally saving and closing that report. So you can test out each one of these modules individually inside of the task builder. You can also test these out as you saw before with the inside of the workflow designer, testing out the entire process end to end. One of the more common questions I get is around logging. So how easy is it to troubleshoot if you have some sort of an exception? Like we've seen here, you can easily go into the task builder or the workflow designer to simulate a particular failure, and you can build out proactive notification as you've seen, but also you can incorporate the creation of custom logging. By default, the system for compliance purposes doesn't log all the information that is extracted or derived throughout the entire process, but you can incorporate custom logs throughout the entire flow of the particular automation. And if I run this one here where we're executing an SSIS package, this one in particular, I know this one's going to fail, and we built in some logic to write out the information in the event of a failure, to write that out to a custom log and then send that out to the administrator proactively, so they are easily able to, first off, know that there is an exception that occurred and what that particular exception is. You'll see it is popping the log to the screen here. Of course, this wouldn't take place outside of a demo. This is the information that would be sent via email to the administrator so they can quickly determine what that particular exception is. They'll know exactly when it occurred. And as we mentioned too, you'll know you can incorporate timestamps throughout the entire process, so you can see that the automate task had initiated. We connected to the database successfully, and we see that the updates were completed, but initiating that SSIS package, we'll then see that we did receive a particular failure, and is indicated by the DTSCR failure error message, and that was what triggered the customized logging of the data and the transmission of that particular email. Another common question is around API integration. How easy is it to integrate with various APIs? And we have built-in functionality to integrate with either RESTful APIs or SOAP-based web services. In most cases, you'll probably be integrating with RESTful APIs. So we have the built-in HTTP action. You can simply drag in either a GET or a POST. You're really following along with the documentation and then filling out the form accordingly related to the URL that you're going to call, any sort of credentials, as well as the advanced settings like content type, any sort of header information. Again, you're just really following along with the documentation. And then if we run a test on this particular service here, this OData has an actual sample request that will get a valid response. I'll run that one right from here. And then we can put in some dialog boxes, some pop-ups with some information that was extracted from the resulting JSON. We can also take a look at the individual object that was returned. The JSON string can be easily converted to an object